Either you commit to the fact that you're basically always going to be on alcohol and drugs, that you're basically just going to always be drunk or under the influence of drugs. Or you say, I'm going to start working this as a spiritual path from the beginning. Because you can take the drugs or the alcohol, and maybe you feel high, maybe you feel relaxed, maybe you feel whatever you wanted to feel. But it has a half-life. It ends. You come down. Even aside from the hangover, it wears off. Now your choice is either you take it again, or you figure out some way to get to that mental, emotional state that you were in without the chemistry. And if you're going to do that at any point, why not do it from the beginning? Why pollute the organs of the body unnecessarily if at the end of the day you're just going to have to get there anyway through meditation, through contemplation, through introspection, through spiritual and psychological work? So unless you're prepared to spend the rest of your life under the influence of alcohol and drugs, the question is, why even start? People say, well, just once, just twice. Well, what are you going to get from it? Nothing. Unless you want to be addicted, you've got to do the work yourself. So start from the beginning anyway. With regard to sex, which is different, so we'll take it separately, sex is not bad at all. There's nothing in any of our scriptures that say, thou shalt not have sex. The human race would end in one generation. I mean, if sex were deemed bad by religion, we essentially would be condemning planet Earth to no longer have any more humans after this generation. So sex is most definitely not bad. It's been given to us as this beautiful way of propagating the species. It's been made to feel good so that we want to propagate the species. If it felt awful, we would not propagate the species. So unless you have taken monastic vows, obviously for those of us who have taken vows of celibacy, we don't have sex. But for everyone else, it is definitely not bad at all. However, it can take you off the spiritual path just the same way that alcohol and drugs can. Because it also can be used as a way to not feel what you're experiencing. I'm frustrated, I'm bored, I'm angry, I'm upset, my self-esteem is low, my self-confidence is low, my motivation is low, my boss yelled at me today, whatever it may be that's troubling us. Sex becomes a very good diversion and distraction. Whether you're actually having sex, whether you're just thinking about sex, whether you're watching pornography, whatever it may be, it becomes a way of distracting and diverting yourself rather than doing the work on a spiritual level, on an emotional level, on a pragmatic and practical level, to actually create a healthier, more spiritually sustainable, and empowered and inspiring life. However, sex can also be very beautiful. If you're not using it as a distraction, and you're not using it just as a physical way to, have the body feel good for 15 minutes, but you're actually using it as a way to get closer to the divine through a loved one, Sex can be a very, very powerful and beautiful way of coming together. We begin as separate beings. Spiritually, we know that we are one. We know that the highest spiritual experience is one of merging into the infinite. That drop that merges into the ocean, the loss of a sense of me as separate being, and the awareness of me as one with God, one with the Creator, one with the creation. Well, for many people, a first step along that way is the experience that they have having sex with a loved one. They went from being me as separate being to at least I am one with you. So if you're using it like that, no problem. In a spiritual, monogamous, committed, dharmic, beautiful relationship, sure, nothing wrong with it. Certainly nothing to feel guilty about. The last thing you need is to give yourself a complex around sex. But if you find that it's not in that type of relationship, and it's just a way of getting out of your heart, out of your spiritual connection, out of the troubles of your mind through just promiscuous, meaningless sex, then it's just like another drug. So it doesn't help you at all, and it just distracts and diverts you. But if you're using it as part of your spiritual path, it can be a very, very beautiful way for people to come, people who are in a committed dharmic relationship, to come together. Yeah, beautiful questions. Other questions that anyone here has, just feel free to come up here to the microphone. Yeah, you can come. Come. It always takes courage to be the first person. Come. Aap aiyega. Namaste. Pranam.
Sometime in our life, I experienced that someone accidentally or suddenly passes away. And that time we get disturbed too much. Yes, it's normal that after a short span of time of 15 days or a month, we get normal. But that span of time of 15 or 20 days, we disturb and feel very negatively.
Yeah.
So what should be there to get rid of it? ऐसी परिस्थिति में हम कैसे बाहर आएं?
बिल्कुल.
Please say something else.
Sure, a beautiful question. Someone we love passes away, whether it's sudden and unexpected, as he mentioned, or whether it's after a prolonged illness. Either way. He said we're expected after 15, 20 days of puja to just come out of it. But how to do that? I don't know anyone who 15, 20 days after the loss of a loved one is fine and normal. मैंने कभी नहीं देखा. होती नहीं 15-20 दिन में. कोई आपकी जीवन में 30 साल, 20 साल, 10 साल, people are in our lives for a long time, वो चले जाते हैं, वो भी अचानक. There's no way कि इतनी जल्दी आप ऐसे बिल्कुल बाहर आ जाएंगे उससे. लेकिन वो याद रखिएगा, वो याद रखिएगा कि don't expect yourself to go back to the way you were before they passed away. You've been impacted by it. That impact will be with you forever. You were impacted by their presence, and now you are impacted by their absence. The 15-20 days of puja, what that does is it helps you come to terms with the fact that they are not here. It gives us honestly something to do for 15-20 days. Neto, the first couple of weeks are the hardest. If we did not have puja and prayers and ceremonies, we wouldn't get out of bed. If you look at most of the religions in the world, they have very prescribed ceremonies and rituals in the first few weeks. Why? More for us than for the person who passed away. It gets us out of bed, it gets us in the shower, it gets us moving, it gets us doing things. And it teaches us how to get up and put one foot in front of the other, even without this person. It's a training of the mind to realize they are not here, of the body to be able to go through life, just even the physical steps, without that person. But on an emotional level, do not think कि 15-20 दिन के बाद आप उसी दुख से बाहर आ जाएंगे. That sadness when you think about the person will likely be with you forever. You love them, you miss them. But what happens is who you are changes, and it adapts around that sadness, around that loss. We are changed. We're changed by every time we love someone, and we're changed every time a loved one passes away. Both ways. Every time some new person in your life, whether it's a romantic person, whether it's a child, whether it's a friend, every time we love someone, we are changed. And when we lose a loved one, we are changed. We're not going to go back. But you learn how to adapt, how to move on in your life without their physical presence. And when you think about them, it begins with just sadness. But slowly, slowly, as you think about them, you also start smiling, because you remember the beautiful moments. Sometimes even you laugh because you feel like, you can hear them, you're talking to them. कभी-कभी हंसते भी जैसे उनसे बात कर रहे हैं. On the deepest level, what you have to realize is they are still here on the level of soul and spirit. Their physical body is gone, but soul is still here, right? This is why we read chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita whenever someone dies, because Bhagwan Krishna reminds us that we are that which is never born and never dies. So who they are has not died, just the physical form. And so when someone we love passes away, along with the grief, it's also a really deep opportunity to allow ourselves to reconnect with them on the level of soul. I have people who I just loved so much who have passed away, and I still talk to them inside. I feel them inside very deeply. Yeah, कभी-कभी रोते भी हों कि you remember, gosh, इतना अच्छा रहता if they were still here. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with tears. But you learn to have that sadness become just a part of you. And slowly, slowly you learn to laugh again. You learn to smile again. You learn to enjoy life again. Even while you miss them. It's not one or the other. But the two things, your sadness at their loss and your ability to enjoy life, start to be able to exist simultaneously. But it takes some time. Give yourself some time. 15-20 din kuch bhi nahi hai. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Other questions? Yeah, come. Acha, first him, then you. Sure. बस माइक को थोड़ा सा ऊपर कर दीजिएगा. माइक जो है थोड़ा सा मुंह पे ऊपर कर दीजिएगा. Yeah, there you go. Then we can hear you.
अपनी लाइफ में एक्सपेक्टेशन के अनुकूल बहुत कुछ होता है. As we think, as we desire, so many things becomes as per our desire and as per our choice. But suddenly something or some people hurts you very badly without any reasonable reason. Yeah. And without any any expectation, सोचा भी नहीं है कि ये आदमी
हाँ ऐसे कर सकते हैं.
मैंने इतना प्यार किया, मैंने इतना समर्पण किया और उसने मेरे साथ में बेवजह बिना कारण के अच्छा नहीं किया. इधर सोशली और एनी टाइप ऑफ वो दिल में जिसको बोलते हैं ना दुख पहुंचाना, ठेस पहुंचाना. तो इस स्थिति में आप थोड़ा सुझाव दीजिए.
Sure.
क्या मैं कर सकता हूँ?
Sure.
मेरे को सोचना चाहिए क्या करना.
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल. So for those of you who didn't understand the Hindi, he said, what do we do when in our life someone really hurts us? We've treated them so nicely, done everything for them. And somebody who we never would expect could be so rude and hurtful and mean, they do something that really hurts us. What to do? First, you realize that everybody comes into this world with their own package deal, their own karmic package. Sabhi apne karm hi lekar aate hain. अपनी कार्मिक पैकेज और जो भी वो कर रहे होंगे उनकी कर्म के अनुसार से कर रहे हैं. हम इसको बहुत पर्सनली लेते हैं. We take things very personally. I was so nice to them, they were so mean to me. But the truth is, what people do, it's not about you. हम इसको अपनी ही दृष्टि से देखते हैं. From a very ego-filled standpoint, उन्होंने कैसे किया मुझको? तो आपको ही नहीं किया. They just did it. You happened to be there. Imagine you're walking through a park and a mad dog, means a dog that has rabies, comes out of the bushes and bites you. You're not going to think, how did that dog do that to me? Why me? I'm such a good person. I've never hurt dogs before in my life. I donate money every month to the animal protection people. मेरे साथ कैसे हुआ? अब कभी ऐसे नहीं सोचेंगे, क्योंकि आप समझ सकते हैं कि कुत्ता तो बीमार है. पहली बात है कि कुत्ता है, but यही कुत्ता भी बीमार है. We understand the dog is sick. And that's why the dog bit me. No matter how nice of a person I am, it's not that the dog woke up in the morning and made a plan, acha, I'm going to hide there. And when this good, nice guy comes by, I'm going to get him. You just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time where this dog was sick. And he bit you. ठीक इसी तरह से जब लोगों की टूल किट, देखो अगर आप एक कारपेंटर हो, टूल किट, सभी का अपना टूल किट है. We all go through life with a tool kit. Right? Now, a carpenter's toolkit's going to have what? It's going to have a hammer, and it's going to have, a screwdriver, and it's going to have all sorts of other tools, the names of which I don't even know. Because he's going to face so many different situations. And he understands, acha, for the screwdriver, I need a screw. For the nail, I need a hammer. For this, I need a wrench. Right? You can't use a hammer to unscrew a screw. You need a screwdriver for that. But if I don't have a screwdriver, and all I have is a hammer, and I keep hitting the screw, it's not going to work. और वो screw केवल खराब हो जाएगा. ठीक इसी तरह से जीवन में सभी लोग अपनी ही टूल बॉक्स से अपनी जीवन में जा रहे हैं. We go through life with our own toolboxes. And our toolboxes are created from past karma, from our past births, from our karmic package, but also from our families of origin, from our childhood, from our education. Were we taught loyalty? Were we taught honesty? Were we given sanskaras? Were we taught patience? If I have loyalty and honesty and patience and generosity in my toolkit, तो जब भी जरूरत पड़ेगी तो है मेरा पास, तो उसी के अनुसार से I will treat you. But if my toolbox is empty, or if the only things in my toolbox are cheating and lying, because that's what I've been taught in my life. That's what I experienced in my childhood, in my experiences. Well, that's how I'm going to treat you. So whenever somebody disappoints you like that, number one, do not take it personally. It's not about you. It's like the screw saying to the hammer, "Kya samajhte aap apne aap ko? Maine aapko kya kiya kabhi?" Well, it's not that the hammer is trying to hurt the screw. It's just that there is no screwdriver. The hammer's all he's got. So he's trying his best. But it's not working. And it's hurting the screw. In the same way, when people treat us really badly, it's because that's all they have. That's all they can do. So do not take it personally. It's not about you. आपने भले ही जितना स्वीटली उनको ट्रीट किया, जितनी बढ़िया से ट्रीट किया, अगर उसकी टूल बॉक्स में ना दया है, ना अध्यात्मता है, ना सत्य है, तो करें क्या बेचारा? Right? So it's like the mad dog. The dog is sick. So people also are sick. Anger, greed, jealousy, competition. These are ways of being dis-ease. They are dis-eases. Means we are not in ease. So you do not take it personally. Have compassion for them, but you learn a lesson. You learn a lesson that you are not going to walk through that pathway in the park again because you know there is a sick dog that bites. In the same way, don't feel anger in your heart to that person. But you also don't necessarily want to rely on them again or trust them again or give them a position of responsibility. Until and unless you know they've developed those tools. Beautiful. Yes.
Whenever you have a goal, the journey becomes easier, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I know that make an effort to reach there. Like when I was a kid, I had educational goals.
Yes.
When I was in the job and all, I had professional goals, social goals.
Yes, of course, of course. The goals become our destinations.
Yes.
Yes.
So what should be our spiritual?
Beautiful. Our spiritual goal should be what we call self-realization or God realization or moksha or enlightenment. Whatever word you use, it doesn't matter. There's slight variations when you look in the Sanskrit of the different terms, but for practical purposes, what it means is the spiritual goal is to recognize you are not your body. You have a body, but you are not the body. We suffer because of this body illusion, body consciousness. I look in the mirror and I say, oh God, you've gotten fat. Or, oh my God, your hair looks awful. Or, oh my God, you have another wrinkle. Or, oh, those clothes are last year's clothes. Why don't you have enough money to buy new clothes? And then I start to suffer. And then I feel jealous of people who are younger or more beautiful or who have nicer clothes than I do. I start to feel badly about myself. I look at other people based on what they're wearing, based on what they look like. I objectify the world, I objectify myself. And it leads to suffering, jealousy, competition, low self-esteem. And it's all rooted in one thing, Maya, illusion. You are not the body. It also means you are not the role you play, the job you have, the package deal of the house and the car and the bank account that comes with the role. You are that one, as we were just saying, who's never born, who never dies. Like the wave in the ocean. You've played so many roles, lifetime after lifetime. New bodies, new roles, new narratives, new stories, new relationships. You are that which doesn't change. So the spiritual goal is to recognize that. Not just to know it intellectually, but actually to connect with who is that in me. We all can connect very nicely with our physical body. I'm hungry, I'm tired, I'm sexually aroused, my stomach hurts, my legs hurt, my back hurts. We know very well how our physical body is feeling. We know how our mental state is feeling. I'm angry, I'm happy, I'm frustrated, I'm jealous, I'm resentful, I feel guilty, I'm in ecstasy. Right? We know how all of that feels. What most of us don't know is who is that? Not the body, not the emotions, not the feeling state. Who is that? Who is that that is the same, whether I'm hungry or full, tired or well rested, happy or sad? Who is that? Who is that that looked in the mirror when I was 5, long before I had any wrinkles, that looks in the mirror today? Who is that? And an experiential connection with that, which, I'll give you a hint, is one with the divine. And this is why we are taught these mool mantras of Aham Brahmasmi. I am one with Brahman, one with the supreme reality, the infinite existence. Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that. You are one with the supreme reality, with all that exists. Soham, I am that. Different ways of saying the same thing. that remind us over and over again. That's who you are. That's who you are. So that's the spiritual goal. And as you work toward that with the self, you also work toward it with others. Because as you realize you are not the body, then you realize neither are they. So where we begin by seeing people as beautiful or ugly, friend or foe, like me, not like me, this is us, this is them, suddenly you start to see the same content in everyone. They're different packages, but the same content. Like you recognize that every wave in the ocean is just ocean. In the same way, you start to see that same divine in all. So that's the highest goal. And then to hold it, right? So we get it, we get a glimpse of it, and then we lose it. And so you work to actually live in that state, not just touch it and experience it, but to never fall out of it. Beautiful. Beautiful. Last. Yes.
I consider myself to be a fulfilled man.
Wonderful.
Apart from one thing, normally everybody knows where he lacks and all that. I lack in spirituality. And as far as dedication is concerned, I'm a very dedicated person, although as far as my education is related to my education, my sports routines, and my business and all that. I do really well in all these things.
Wonderful.
But whenever it comes to the spirituality, whenever I try to do something, like for example, let's just give you, I believe that I should start reading Gita, 1 page a day only. But that day never comes. So how to bring that dedication towards spirituality?
Beautiful. In the beginning, we need discipline and willpower. But just in the beginning. To start a new habit takes a while. I've heard different science. Some people say 21 days, some people say 40 days, but whatever it may be, it takes a certain amount of time. It doesn't take years. Even if you take the longer estimate and you say 40 days, it's only 40 days. Make a commitment that for 40 days, whatever new habit you want to start, that you are going to do that every day. And use tricks. There's all kinds of tricks to use to discipline the self. For example, if I don't read a page of the Gita in the morning, I don't get breakfast. If I don't read a page of the Gita, I have to take that entire day's earnings and give the money to somebody I hate. Come up with rules. You can use a carrot or you can use a stick. Give yourself some reward or some punishment. Either way. Food works very well. Money works very well. Okay? The day no Gita, that day no tea, no coffee, or if you don't drink tea or coffee, just no breakfast. No food at all. I'm fasting that day. Until I read the Gita, I get no food. That'll get you to read it pretty quickly. But that's just in the beginning of a habit. Don't feel badly. This is how the human mind works. We do those things that we are habituated to doing. And it just takes a little while to lay a different habit. The deeper and more powerful way is to fall in love with God. Because when you love someone, you don't have to set a reminder to spend time with them. You don't have to put a reminder in your phone to call your kids. They might have to put a reminder to call home. But you don't have to put a reminder to call your kids because you love them. You're thinking about them all the time. Ideally, we love God so much that reading Gita, doing japa, doing puja, these things are things that we can't wait to do. But until that bhakti really arises in you, use discipline. Nothing wrong with that. I remember when I first came to Parmarth Niketan, so every morning at 5 a.m., they have beautiful prayers that take place in this hall. There's chanting of prayers, and then there's a lecture in Hindi. It goes from 5 to 6. It's no longer compulsory, but when I first came here, it was compulsory. You had to go. And at some point between 5 and 6 in the morning, the guard would go around to all of the rooms of the ashram checking to see who's not in the prayers, who's sleeping. And he had a big danda, a big stick, and he would bang on the doors to see was there anybody in the room asleep. At the end of the lecture, at 6 o'clock, just before ending, whoever was giving the lecture that day would receive a slip of paper. And the last part of the morning prayers was they would say, Aaj itni logon ka upvas hai. And they would read out the names of the people who were in their rooms with today, the following people are observing fast. Which was just a very nice way of saying these people will not get food today. If you didn't show up in the morning prayer, you didn't get food. In fact, there's a great story of the former president of India, Shri Rajendra Prasadji, when he came to the ashram, long before I was here. He came to the ashram, didn't go to the morning prayers. I think probably nobody had mentioned to the president, ki, by the way, this is compulsory, you have to come. But Swami Shukdevananji Maharaj, the founder of the ashram, was observing fast that day. And somebody asked him, like, why are you fasting today? It's not, some special holiday, it's not, Ekadashi, it's not any reason that you would fast. And it turned out he was fasting on behalf of the president of the country because the president didn't come to the morning prayers. वो नियम को तोड़ना नहीं चाहते थे. But he also did not want, obviously you're not going to tell the president कि we're not going to feed you. So उन्होंने president की ओर से उपवास रखा. So point is, spiritual institutions institute policies like that because they understand the mind is very fickle. You want to eat, you show up at the 5 o'clock prayers. So in the same way, set yourself some discipline. Make a rule, until I read the page of the Gita, no food.
Small extension to
Sure.
Maybe with kiddish, depending on them. You said set a goal, put some danda or something like that. I agree to that, but like for example, I've done Ironman.
I'm sorry?
Ironman, or event. Okay, it's a triathlon.
Yeah, the Iron Man, of course.
So I've done that. For that, I have registered, and the deadline was there. So I put myself into a self-challenging mode that I have to do it, and I was working on it, and I have achieved that. Like in education also, we have got exams.
You want a deadline? Let me ask you something. What guarantee do you have that you're not going to drop dead before you walk out of the door of satsang? कोई विश्वास है? What guarantee do you have that you're going to wake up tomorrow morning? The deadline is now. The deadline is now spiritually. We say, before I die, I better get spiritually evolved, like I better read the Gita before I die. Obviously, we all understand, ki before we die, we want that we attain moksha, or that our next birth is, very spiritual and conducive, and that we have a good next birth. But you have no idea when that's going to happen. Iron Man at least gives you 9 months down the line, 10 months down the line. You may not even have 5 minutes. You better read right now. Somebody put a Gita on the man's hands, literally. Like you literally don't know. Postpone anything that's got a deadline that you know that's down the way. Okay, you start training for the Ironman tomorrow instead of today, fine, you'll be okay. But your spiritual path, you don't know. Yeah, great. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. If we didn't have a chance to get your question today, we will take it tomorrow. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful evening. And I'm now back home, thankfully, for at least the next week plus, so 10 days. So we'll be having satsang each evening after the arati. So looking so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And so